In this video, we'll be looking at the pros and cons of working with Photoshop and Illustrator documents in After Effects. For this comparison, we'll be looking at some features, starting with the layer management. In Photoshop, the layer hierarchy is preserved, adjustment layers, and some blending modes. While in Illustrator, layers are flattened unless they are released to layer sequence before importing to After Effects. So let's have a look at the document we'll be working with. Right, so here's the document we'll be working with. We have some dashboard elements. We also have the exact same document in Illustrator. Starting with the Photoshop, the first feature we'll be looking at is the layer hierarchy. Now in Photoshop, every single element is imported in the layer hierarchy, while in Illustrator, all the elements will have to be in their own separate layer. Now when you are working with Illustrator, by default, you will be working with one layer. After creating your file, you have to release all your layers to their individual layers. If not, they will come in as one document. So looking at the way I prepared this document, every single asset here have their own layer up here. But then this particular card, I grouped them together so they are all on a single layer. So we'll see how this behaves inside After Effects. So let's open After Effects to import these two documents. Alright, so here in After Effects, let's import the two documents that we'll be working with. We'll import the Illustrator document. We import it as composition retain layer size. Let's import the Photoshop composition retain layer sizes. So open up these two documents. Now we'll be going over the different features each of them has. In Illustrator, you can see this card, it came in as a single file because it's grouped. So every single element have to be released in their layer sequence. Whereas in Photoshop, we have all the individual elements coming the way they are arranged in Photoshop. Now back in Illustrator, how to release our layers to layer sequence. You first of all ungroup the layer, and then within the layer, select all the elements in the layer and come up to this menu option. Use this option here, release to layer sequence. When you click on it, every single element will be separated on their own layer. You can then select all and drag them out of the first layer. This way, they will all be imported the same way this one is imported. Now, the second feature we'll be looking at is group behavior. In Photoshop, groups come into After Effects as precoms, while groups in Illustrator comes in as a single artwork. Now, back in Photoshop, you can see that these two cards are grouped in their individual layers. When you open up the group, you can see all the assets for each of the cards. So when we open After Effects, you can see under the Photoshop that they come in as a precomp. So these precoms, you can open them and access the individual elements. While in Illustrator, this second card that was grouped, it came in as a single art file. So there is no way to manipulate the elements in this card because it's a single vector file. Now the next feature, artwork beyond the artboard. For Photoshop, the artwork beyond the artboard are maintained, while in Illustrator, they are cut off. So let's go back to Photoshop. So we have these graphics here that some part of it are going off the screen. We also have it here. We have the same in Illustrator. When we come back to After Effects, inside Illustrator, you notice that the part of the artwork that is outside the artboard are cut off, while in Photoshop, they are maintained. So if you want to do animation and you want to resize this artwork, for example, or change the position, you can still readjust it, while in Illustrator, you cannot. So that's a pro feature for Photoshop. The next feature, shape layer handling. In Photoshop, shape layers comes as solid with mask, while in Illustrator, you can easily create shapes from vector layers. So coming back to After Effects, all these layers, we can easily convert them. When we right click, you can easily create shapes from vector, and there you can have a shape layer that you can change the color and manipulate the way you want. While in Photoshop, when we open this same file, when you right click, it doesn't give you any option to convert to vector. Instead, this is actually a solid layer with a mask. So when we review the mask property of this layer, turn it off, you can see that this is a solid layer with a mask. The workaround for this, if you are working with Photoshop, is to use this mask to create a shape. So let me quickly show you how you can do that. So when we open this mask, open the mask part, copy the mask part, and then create a new shape layer. So inside this shape layer, we add a part. Inside this part, this is where you paste the part you copied before. So let's also add a fill. We now have a shape. So depending on the one you are working with, you know how to go around the limitations. Coming to the next feature, we have scaling and resolution. For Photoshop, the assets are raster based, which means when you scale it beyond 100%, you will lose quality. While for Illustrator, they are vector based, meaning that once you turn on the continuous rasterization, you can scale it to any amount you want. So back in After Effects, this is our Photoshop file. Let me add a background so we can see this clearly. Now, if I scale this file up beyond 100%, you can see that the edges are pixelating, they are blurred out. But in Illustrator, we can scale any of the elements. So let's scale this up. Now you see that they are still pixelating here, but you can turn on the continuous rasterization, which is this button here, and the edges will become sharp no matter how much you scale it up. So that is a pro for Illustrator. Now the next feature we'll be looking at is text handling. For Photoshop, text can be converted to editable text, while in Illustrator, they cannot be converted. So back in our document, we have a lot of text here. This is a vector file, which means we cannot edit this text. If we want to use a text animation, we will have to retype this text. But inside Photoshop, we can directly edit the text by converting it to editable text. Under Create, Convert to Editable Text. So here you have all your text properties. You can decide to change the font size or the font weight or the font color, anything you want to do. So that's a pro for Photoshop. And the last feature we'll be looking at is the guide support. For Photoshop, your guides can be imported, while in Illustrator they cannot. So looking at the file, we have these 4 guides beside our cards. The same goes for Illustrator. We also have the guide here. But when we open After Effects, under the Photoshop, you can see the guides. You can even readjust the guides to change the position. But in Illustrator, the guides are not here. The alternative is to use a shape to create the guides in Illustrator, so that here in After Effects, you can now manually create guide using the position of the shapes. So these are the major features you need to know about when working with any of these documents. For each of the limitations, there are some workarounds, so you know the one that fits what you are doing the most. For example, in Illustrator, this image, the workaround can be you might decide to increase the size of your artboard to contain every single thing, so that when you come inside After Effects, you can then reposition it the way you want it to be. But overall, I found Photoshop to be the easiest way, being that it can help you to organize your file, especially for this pre-composition. You can easily organize your work the way you want it to be before importing inside After Effects. So let me know what you think. Which of these software do you prefer to use to prepare for your animation in After Effects? And if you have any question regarding any of the processes, you can let me know in the comment section below. See you on the next one.